Hi everyone, my name is Aaron and welcome back to my channel. Paris Morphopoulos strikes again, or should I say strikes out again. You might remember Paris from a video I put up last year highlighting one of Paris's greatest hits. Here's Paris harassing Mark Bunker back in the day.
Until you lose some weight, get the hell away from me, you know? Are you on your 50 Twinkie a day habit now or what? If you can't control your eating habits, Mark, what about your sexual habits? Where do they run to? Small children? Huh? Animals? What is it, small barnyard animals? What does it for you? Little boys? I told you I don't want to be videotaped by you.
Then why approach me on a public street?
Because I want you to get the hell out of here.
Paris Morphopoulos is a Clearwater-based Scientologist who holds a sort of elected position on a city council advisory board called the Downtown Development Board. In some respects, Paris is a very sympathetic character because, well, for starters, his mother named him Paris. This board has the distinction of being the only board of any kind whatsoever in the history of Clearwater to have a majority of Scientologists on it. It was only a few years ago that for the first time this board finally had a majority of Scientologists on it. And the Tampa Bay Times wrote an article back then about this subject that I believe was broadly misunderstood by those who either read the article or just read the headline. Many people read this article and thought that the Clearwater City Council was now dominated by Scientologists. That's just a misunderstanding. People aren't elected to seats on this board through a citywide election. Clearwater has about 116,000 citizens. In order to vote for who sits on the Downtown Development Board, you actually have to own property within a geographically defined downtown district, of which there are only like 777 eligible properties. Only about 450 people go through the trouble of registering to vote and actually voting. The Church of Scientology and individual Scientologists control well over half of those votes. So a Scientologist getting elected to a seat on the Downtown Development Board is not newsworthy. What is newsworthy is that they don't control all 7 seats. As of right now, they only control 5. Anyway, the only reason we're talking about the Downtown Development Board is that Paris Morphopoulos serves as the chair of this board, and it is in his role as the chairman of the Downtown Development Board that he seems to relish opportunities of humiliating himself and humiliating Scientology, and this week he did it yet again. At this week's Downtown Development Board meeting, a local gentleman by the name of Ted Reinhardt addressed the board. Ted wanted to share with the board the good news that he had just opened up a new business in downtown Clearwater that he believed was going to generate more interest from tourists and help drive dollars into Clearwater downtown businesses. Ted's business is called Cult City Tours. The idea behind Ted's business is that instead of trying to hide from the fact that Scientology is one of the most publicly identifiable characteristics of Clearwater, the idea is to embrace that identity through Scientology tourism. Ted has a history of operating successful tour companies, and this idea is something that Mark Bunker floated a few months ago at a city council meeting. I think probably more as a joke. But Ted picked up on it and he decided to run with this idea. So what Ted does is give a walking tour of all of the Scientology buildings that comprise the Flag Land Base. The tour takes about 60 to 90 minutes, and he gives an educational and historical background of each location and where it fits in Clearwater's history and in the history of Scientology. And Ted, being a very brash and brave man, decided, even though this Downtown Development Board is dominated by Scientologists, he showed up to the board and he described his company in a very non-aggressive, non-antagonistic, non-threatening way. And Paris Morphopoulos, being the man that he is, just could not help himself but to jump all over this, decided he had to add his 2 cents as a Scientologist. Here's Ted's presentation.
I'm Ted Reinhardt. I represent Cult City Tours. We're actually a new player downtown. A little bit about us. We are a majority African-American, woman, Muslim owned and operated company. We've got over 80 years combined of tourism experience around the world. We are also Clearwater residents. And since international travel is running slow, we got this crazy new idea. We're going to start running tours of downtown Clearwater. So far, so good. We literally just went live yesterday. We're projecting about 20 people a tour, 3 tours a week, 60 people a week. So we're talking hundreds a month. So not too bad. And that's right now. We're still looking at staff as things grow and all that. But I wanted to show up, say that we're here, and say that we would love to be a partner with the Downtown Development Agency. I used to work with Florida Main Street for years, and one of the things that I learned was it's not just government, it's not just business, it's everybody getting together, and I want to participate in it. If there's an event, if there is something going on, we're happy to schedule tours that bring people downtown before it. If there's an event, we'd be happy to run tours for free during it to keep them there. It's about keeping people there, keeping them spending money, and keeping them downtown. A lot of what we're doing is demystifying downtown. We're encouraging people to come out. We got most of our reservations are actually locals right now. We've got people from Newport Richey, Tampa, Sarasota coming up, and they're coming downtown to spend money, which is fantastic. They're walking with us for a mile, about an hour and a half. You know, the tours are affordable, they're around $10, so it's not that bad. But it's what they'll do afterwards. We start at 10 o'clock, we're done around 11:30. Just in time for lunch. And as we walk along, we actually recommend coffee shops and restaurants and all that too. But I just want to say, we are here, we're online. If there's anything we can do for you, any way we can partner with you, please feel free to reach out. We're happy to help.
And here's Paris's response.
Okay, I would just like to make one comment, a final comment about that particular group. Lest anybody be deceived, it's not a new business. It's basically a front for a bigoted hate group. I've already had tours coming by my store where my name is called out and I'm being defamed. My store is being pointed out as a target. It's happened twice already. This is basically a front for an anti-Scientology group. So let's just, you know, all the smiles and friendly stuff, it's a front. Please don't be deceived. No, you don't have permission to respond. But I just wanted to say, please don't be deceived by the apparent friendliness. That's not what this is about. This is strictly a bigoted hate group trying to promote divisiveness in our downtown. And that's all I have to say about it.
Incredible. There you have the chairman of the DDB speaking from the Diaz, absolutely slandering Ted Reinhardt and his new company. He sits up there and says, this isn't really a new business. What in the hell is he talking about? Of course this is a new business. He says this is just a front for a hate group. What hate group is Paris Morphopoulos talking about? I'll tell you what he seems to be talking about. He seems to be describing Mike Rinder, Leah Remini, and friends as a hate group. He seems to be describing anybody who appeared on the Leah Remini Scientology and the Aftermath program as a hate group. First of all, that's an absolutely stupid way to use the word hate group. Second of all, Ted Reinhardt has nothing to do with Mike Rinder or Leah Remini or Scientology and the Aftermath in any way, shape, or form. Ted has never been a Scientologist. He wasn't on the program. There's no reason for him to make this association. The only way Paris would attempt to tie Ted to that association is the fact that he ran with an idea that Mark Bunker mentioned. The only other way Paris could try to place Ted somewhere within the orbit of the Aftermath program is that Ted asked for my help doing the initial training of his tour guides, which I was more than happy to do. So I met with Ted and a few other people, and I took him actually on a 2-hour walking tour of every building of the Flag Land base, and we had a great time of it. Told them some stories about each building from my own personal experience. I explained to them the role that each building performed within the ecosystem of the Flag Land base, and it was actually a really fun time. As we were walking around the Superpower building, we played a game of who could find all the hidden cameras and microphones. That was a lot of fun. And then as we were standing outside the Coachman building, which is one of Scientology's biggest buildings, located right on the intersection of North Fort Harrison and Cleveland Street, none other than Pat Harney from the Office of Special Affairs walked by. And at first I was a little weirded out. You know, I didn't want to make this anything confrontational at all. But then I just leaned into it and I said, here we have Pat Harney from the Office of Special Affairs. Her main role is to harass former Scientologists. And then she looked back and I was like, hey Pat, how you doing? Good to see you. In fact, I have the audio recorded. If I can figure out how to do it, I'll put it in right here. And this is Pat Harney. She works for the Office of Special Affairs. One of her main jobs is to harass critics of Scientology. Right there, the little lady walking across the street. Yeah. You can see, hi Pat, how you doing? On the TV show, you can see her coming out and harassing the producers and being real creepy. So the producer walked up and says, oh, hi, I'm Alex Werster. She goes, oh, we know who you are. He's like, how would you know who I am? Yeah, anyway. I gotcha. We had a sighting. Sighting in the wild, in a natural habitat. So as you can see, the fact that there are a majority of Scientologists on this board, even though the board itself is largely irrelevant, having this board controlled by the majority of Scientologists is just silly. When Scientology is the reason why Clearwater has any problems business-wise, economic activity wise, tourism wise. You know, Clearwater, all of our tourism activity occurs down on the beach. Clearwater Beach is miles away from downtown Clearwater. And downtown Clearwater only makes up a tiny little portion of all of Clearwater. And when people hear that Scientology owns a ton of property in downtown, or when people say things like Scientology controls downtown, people do get the impression that somehow all of Clearwater is a Scientology town. And nothing really could be further from the truth. Downtown is a very small portion of Clearwater, and our downtown doesn't perform the same role that the downtown of another average city performs, because we have the beach. And really, for the most part, our downtown, if we're being perfectly honest, is the beach, and the beach is nowhere near what we call downtown Clearwater. Now, even though the name of Ted's company, Cult City Tours, could be characterized as perhaps a bit controversial and perhaps maybe kind of a middle finger to Scientology itself, I have to say that this company does perform a service to the public of Clearwater. And that service is that anyone who goes on this tour is going to understand Scientology doesn't really deserve your fear. They want you to be afraid. They want you to stay away. They want downtown Clearwater for themselves. But the right way to think about it is really more like a snake. It's so ingrained in us to be afraid of them. But the fact is, they're so much more afraid of you than you are of them. And that becomes so evident on this walking tour. You would think that me and Ted and a bunch of other people walking around the base for 2 hours would be a lightning rod for harassment. And it just wasn't the case, because they don't need to be in your face to know what you're doing. They have cameras and microphones everywhere. So you just have to sort of come to terms with that and accept that that is the case, and then have fun with it. So they were already monitoring everything we were doing through their cameras and their microphones. And so by the time we got to the point where we were literally hunting for the hidden cameras and the microphones, that's really where they start telling staff members to stay indoors and don't come outside, because they're kind of just as worried about their own members being harassed by evil people as they are concerned or interested in harassing others. And really, in this day and age, they kind of cannot get away with that sort of over-the-top, in-your-face harassment that they got away with in the 80s and 90s. It just doesn't work anymore. Not in the era of social media, not in the era of everybody having a recording device in their hands or in their pocket. They're a little more concerned about their public persona, their public perception these days than they used to be. And, you know, their public persona and reputation is still just as bad as it has always been. But I guess the point I'm making here is that I think anyone who does go on this tour is going to come out the other end going, oh, wow, there really isn't that much to be afraid of. I can come downtown and enjoy myself at the bars and the restaurants, and I'm going to have just as much fun and be just as relaxed as I would anywhere else. Dunedin, Safety Harbor, St. Pete, Tampa, etc. So congratulations to Ted on his new business. And if you want to tour the Flagland base, his company is the one to call. And speaking of local companies, there are two others I've wanted to acknowledge for a long time. The first one is the Gracie Baja Jiu-Jitsu School here in Clearwater. Some of you have noticed that sometimes I have my jiu-jitsu gis hanging on the wall behind me and have asked me about them. If you live in the Clearwater area and have even the slightest interest in trying Brazilian jiu-jitsu, Gracie Baja Clearwater is absolutely the best place to go. John Keller is the owner and the main instructor at the school, and he is absolutely phenomenal. He makes it a fun and comfortable experience for everyone. So if you would like to take a shot at choking me unconscious, come and join me at Gracie Baja Clearwater. The second company I want to acknowledge is Gold's Gym on Missouri Avenue here in Clearwater. Ed Bogacki is the owner of that gym. I apologize in advance, Ed. I've never quite known how to pronounce your last name. I'm currently doing Gold Gym's 8-week body transformation challenge. I'm there every day. So if you live in the area, want to get in shape, or just want to say hi, head on over to Gold's Gym. All right, everyone, that's all I have for today. For those of you who watched all the way to the end, thank you very much, and I will see you again soon. Bye.
Okay, if you want to see my rock and roll songs, click right on this guitar. And if you want to see a different one of my videos, then you could click right inside here. If you have subscribed or not,